Okay, that title's a little dramatic. Master Duel doesn't actually suck. It just kinda sucks. And it's ultimately up to what lens you want to view this from. Because it was only a few years ago that we still did not have a real official online simulator to play Yu-Gi-Oh with. The best we had was YGO Pro or Dueling Book, which are still around and still used. But if you were like me, you always yearned for an official simulator game that wasn't those PSN or Xbox Live downloadable games that would get a few DLCs and then never get an updated card pool or updated ban lists. So when Master Duel was announced, it felt like everything we had been asking for. So from that lens, Master Duel's absolutely killing it. They're still pumping out updates, there's still events happening all the time. It's been incredibly free-to-play friendly as well. I've been playing since it came out back in 2022. I usually try to play meta-relevant decks. As you can see in the footage here, we're playing Malice Mitsurugi, and throughout all my time playing this game, I've not spent any money, and I've never felt any pressure to spend any money. So even just based on that alone, again, massive props to Konami for how they've handled Master Duel. However, if we look at Master Duel through the lens of a returning player to the TCG, or someone just trying to get into Yu-Gi-Oh for the first time, it's preparing you for a Yu-Gi-Oh that doesn't truly exist. The different ban list changes how the game fundamentally plays, because you're gonna be practicing against end boards that you're usually not gonna see at in-person events, while having to deal with nightmare cards like Max C or Appaloosa. Granted, Appaloosa actually was just recently banned, but the fact that it took them this long to do it is just absurd. And on top of all of that, you're playing a few formats behind from what's actually currently being played at local events. Case in point with this footage right now, you're watching Malice Mitsurugi go against seemingly some kind of Primite Red Eyes deck. Whereas if you head over to your local card shop, 10 to 1 you're gonna run into Yummy Mitsurugi, Branded Draco Tail, K9 Crystron, basically any deck that's still thriving after the dude format ban list. Which I had to find out the hard way, as someone who did recently return to the TCG. I assumed it would be a good idea to practice using Master Duel before going to events, because if I'm about to go to a card shop to play Yu-Gi-Oh, I would assume playing the online competitive ranked Yu-Gi-Oh game should be decent preparation for that. But man oh man was I mistaken. Tons of cards I had never seen before, with strategies going to places I had never even conceived of, which don't get me wrong, I used to go to a lot of events for Yu-Gi-Oh like 10 years ago, so I had a general idea that it was probably gonna be an insane, brutal massacre, which it was. I just didn't expect that I was practicing on basically an entirely different game. Everyone I dueled there warned me that Master Duel is just a terrible way to practice, and that you're still better off just using the third-party simulators. Which just makes me ask, what are we doing here? We have one of the most polished TCG simulators, and some of the most easily accessible cards in one of those simulators, and yet it's functionally useless. All because we're missing a few sets worth of cards. Like, that is literally all it would take to solve this disparity. If they could find a way to release the cards in Master Duel as they simultaneously release in the TCG, and ideally if they could even converge the OCG with TCG so everything's just releasing at the same time. Because that must especially suck if you're an OCG player coming to Master Duel, because then it's even further behind what you're currently playing. I know the simultaneous release date sounds outlandish, but it does seem to be something that Konami's open to doing. The Fallen and the Virtuous Chronicles deck are just proof of that. It was the first structure deck to be released in the OCG and the TCG at the same time, which ideally they will just go all in on and give Master Duel the same treatment. If it were to have the most up-to-date card pool, not only would it serve all the benefits that Master Duel was already serving, but then on top of that, it also appeals to the hardcore competitive players. Now, I understand this is probably something Konami wants. I'm sure they're not just missing all these new cards for no good reason. If they could just find some way to overcome this and make the card pool consistent with the TCGs, then there would be no reason to not play Master Duel when playing Yu-Gi-Oh digitally, besides having to grind and unlock all the cards. As mentioned earlier, the system for crafting and unlocking cards is incredibly fair, so it probably will take a little bit of time, but the good thing is, once you get the cards, you have them forever and can use them in multiple decks at the same time. I sincerely believe if they can find a way to make this possible, not only would more people be interested in trying out Master Duel, but there would probably be a higher amount of players that would give the TCG a try and actually stick with it, as opposed to going to a local after playing a bunch of Master Duel, only to find out you're now playing an entirely different game. Ideally, this should be fully possible because the third-party simulators are able to get cards almost as soon as they're announced. And those are much smaller teams of indie devs compared to Konami's team developing Master Duel. The app Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron also has a full database of cards that's generally updated as soon as new sets release, which can be linked to Master Duel, so maybe even there's some way to share data between card databases. I truly don't know. Another huge change that they could make to Master Duel would be making it a best of 3 format instead of best of 1. Because when you search for a game on Master Duel, once that game's over and someone's life points hit 0, the game's over and it sends you back to the main menu. Whereas with in-person events, you play the best out of 3 games, and after the first round, you're allowed to side deck, and ideally you want to side in cards that are going to cover any blind spots your deck may have against your current matchup, which leads to a lot of interesting choices being made, and it really does test your real-time deck building skills, an element that's completely missing in Master Duel, which makes running into decks like Malice really annoying, because you better hope you have Artifact Lancey in your main deck, otherwise you pretty much just have to watch as they combo off. The simple addition of a 15-card side deck, adding 2 more rounds to the game so that it resembles a match instead of just single games. And even if you're not a fan of the shift into matches, they could do it where the casual mode is still best of 1, but then ranked mode is best of 3. Not only would it more closely resemble the TCG, but on top of that, it would just make Master Duel a more engaging and interesting game. The more decision making, the more choice, the better. And while we're at it, Konami, can we please get a little more anime representation in Master Duel? Whether it be fields that are locations from the anime, characters on sleeves, or in promotional material at the least, dual disc styled playmats, excerpts from the story and solo mode. There's so much that we could do to incorporate those stories and characters into this game. I understand at this point Master Duel's primarily been focused on telling the stories of the cards, but as we've seen many times in the series, the stories of those cards actually tend to have a lot of overlap with the story of the actual series itself. Adding these things would just appeal to a whole new crowd of Yu-Gi-Oh fans, and potentially even get them reinvested in the game. Because at the end of the day, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I love this game, and I want to see it operating at its highest level. With how good the TCG's been, I've seen what's possible, and I want to see that same love given to Master Duel. So again, allow me to clarify. Master Duel doesn't actually suck. For what it's worth, and looking at the evolution of Yu-Gi-Oh video games, it's actually a very solid simulator that Konami's done a very good job at maintaining over the years. That being said, there's just a few things about it right now, specifically the large gap in cards between its card pool and the TCGs, as well as the alternative format that stems from it, that kinda makes it suck for anyone trying to return or get into the TCG. But with an already solid foundation, with just a few changes, Konami could not only make Master Duel a much better game, but also a much better tool for anyone that's interested in the actual trading card game. Thank you so much for watching this video, and take care.